You have been lied to about what real wealth looks like. Not just lied to by the glossy magazines or the fake gurus, but lied to by your own parents, by the nightly news, and worst of all, by the institutions that hold your money. They told you the path to security, to eventual freedom, was paved with patience and savings accounts. They sold you on the illusion of stability. But here is the truth that absolutely nobody wants to hear. If your primary financial strategy right now involves meticulously tracking every penny and piling up large stacks of low-interest cash in a conventional savings account or a standard CD, you are not building freedom. You are setting up a beautifully maintained, velvet-lined prison cell for your future self. That safety you feel when you open your banking app and see that slowly climbing number, that is the most expensive psychological comfort you can possibly buy. We need to talk about the cost of sitting still. Most people equate financial maturity with the discipline required to not spend money. They believe the battle is won by denial, by cutting out the morning coffee, by skipping the vacation, by driving the car for 5 extra years. And yes, discipline matters, but that kind of ascetic saving only gets you halfway up the hill. It generates wealth at the speed of a sloth climbing a thick, vertical pane of glass. It's effective for building an emergency buffer, maybe 3 or 6 months of expenses. That is essential, foundational capital. But the moment you cross that boundary, the moment your savings stockpile moves from being an emergency defense fund to being your core engine for building generational wealth, you have fundamentally broken the financial machine. You have confused a tool for a strategy. The real danger isn't that you're spending too much. The real danger is the silent, pervasive, mathematically guaranteed erosion of value that occurs when cash sits idle, waiting for the perfect moment. We don't need to invent fancy terms for this. We call it inflation. It's the hidden thief that doesn't use a ski mask. It uses the official reports of the Consumer Price Index. When the cost of living, the cost of groceries, the cost of housing, the cost of education is rising consistently at 4, 5, sometimes 8% year over year, and your savings account is returning 0.5%, you are guaranteed to lose value. Every single year, it's not a risk, it's a certainty. You are literally paying your bank, through inflation, for the privilege of holding your increasingly worthless money. Think about the psychological trap this creates. You work 50 hours a week, you deny yourself small pleasures, you pinch pennies until they scream, and you deposit that hard-earned money into an account that is legally, structurally obligated to destroy its value slowly. It's the ultimate financial sabotage performed by the self. You are trying to sprint toward financial freedom while wearing lead boots. This isn't just about the mathematical loss from inflation. That's the obvious hit. The far deeper, more insidious wound is the opportunity cost. This is the big one that nobody tracks. No bank sends you a statement at the end of the year showing the $20,000 you could have made if that cash had been deployed intelligently. Opportunity cost is the debt you accumulate by being too cautious. It's the compounding returns you missed out on, the years of growth that you forfeited because your cash was sitting frozen in what felt like a safe zone. When you hoard cash beyond your emergency needs, you aren't being responsible. You are making an active decision to accept guaranteed low returns over the probability of higher ones. You are trading freedom for temporary comfort. If your goal is merely to maintain your current lifestyle until retirement, perhaps this stagnant saving method is sufficient, assuming inflation stays relatively low and you never hit a major financial setback. But nobody who is serious about breaking free, about having that radical choice over where they spend their time and how they live their life, can afford to adopt a strategy built on the slow drip of a standard savings yield. Freedom is not an accumulation of cash. Freedom is the compounding interest generated by deployed, productive capital. And this is where the conventional advice fails entirely. They tell you to save, 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 as if the sheer volume of saved cash will magically transcend the laws of economics. They confuse the metric, the dollar amount, with the mechanism, the rate of return. We need to shift the focus entirely. The mental energy you currently spend checking your budget app multiple times a day, worrying about whether you spent $10 too much on lunch, needs to be repurposed. That energy needs to be directed towards understanding deployment. What if we reframed the definition? What if we agreed that anything beyond that 6-month emergency fund is no longer savings? It's simply idle capital. And idle capital is capital that is failing its purpose. It's essentially suffering from financial negligence. Your money, like any good employee, needs a job. And sitting in a low-interest account is the equivalent of paying a highly qualified specialist to file papers in a dark closet. It's absurd inefficiency. If you are currently sitting on years of living expenses just waiting, just hoping, just feeling safe, you need to acknowledge the weight of that fear that is keeping that money locked up. That money isn't there to protect you from the unexpected. It's protecting you from action. It's protecting you from the necessity of making decisions about investment, about risk, about strategy. But that lack of decision, that deliberate avoidance of risk, is itself the biggest financial risk you are taking. You are trading the volatility of the market for the guaranteed destruction of inflation. To achieve genuine financial freedom, the kind that lets you walk away from a bad job, move to a new country, or fund a personal passion project, you need systems that generate income independent of your labor, systems that are fighting inflation, not surrendering to it. That system cannot be built on cash hoarding. Cash is a necessary tool, a facilitator of transactions, but it is a terrible store of long-term value. So, look at your net worth statement right now. Look at the percentage of your total liquid assets that are sitting in vehicles returning less than 2%. That percentage is the direct measure of how far away you are from accelerating toward freedom. It's a measure of opportunity, cost, debt. And if that number feels heavy, if it feels restrictive, then we need to talk about how you shift that capital from passive, guaranteed loss savings into active, productive assets. Calculate the real loss you've taken this year alone. If that number bothers you, tell me what percentage of your capital is sitting idle right now.